This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
Cold, really cold.
We turn to you, Lord, in our hour of need. We pray for Nancy's rescue.
This is a home game for us.
Americans need to understand Iran's threat is not about Israel. It's about America.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Winter takes a short break. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. Cold days, Arctic nights. Seems it's been brutal for weeks on end now. And tonight will start out that way, but then...
In fact, those temperatures will rise, in some cases above freezing. Keep in mind, though the cold relents, winter is still with us. In fact, there may be a winter storm to contend with this weekend.
Yeah, good news, bad news from meteorologist Kevin Williams. We'll get his forecast later in this newscast. It'll be nice to have even a brief break from the punishing cold. It was -7 when people woke up in Jessup, Pennsylvania today. No one wants to be outside. This guy told WNEP he walked his dog twice before breakfast, reluctantly.
Be as quick as possible.
Good advice there. Jeremiah Montana had an 8 a.m. nursing class at Marywood University. His destination, a long and frigid walk from the parking lot.
Yeah, it's all the way up the hill too, so.
Precautions you took? What's it like being out here on a morning like this?
Cold, really cold, but I figured it's what you got to do, right?
Indeed. A break in the deep freeze can't come soon enough for this Fulton County, New York man, one of many who've seen delays refilling the propane they use to heat and run their home. He tells WTEN.
Furnace is on propane, the generator's on propane, the water heater's on propane, the cooking is on propane, everything's on propane.
He says they're getting by, but worries about others.
If we're suffering, we're pretty agile on our feet and able to survive. What are other people, older people, single moms with kids? What are they doing in this situation?
Their supplier, Ferrogas, says their drivers are already working 7 days a week to try to keep up with overwhelming demand in the region as low temps send propane use sky high. Elsewhere this day, an afternoon deadline a couple of hours from now in Tucson, Arizona. So says a second ransom note, according to the family of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, now missing for over a week. Savannah Guthrie, her daughter, with another message to the kidnappers over the weekend.
We received your message. This is very valuable to us. And we will pay.
On Sunday, members of St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church in Tucson prayed for their missing member, Nancy Guthrie.
We turn to you, Lord, in our hour of need. We pray for Nancy's rescue. We pray for her release.
Doubts do remain, though, about the authenticity of the ransom notes delivered to Tucson area media. A landmark social media addiction trial got underway in L.A. today. Parent Lori Schott, she lost a daughter to a suicide, which she says was caused by social media addiction. She has this message for those tech execs.
I hope every day you look in the mirror and you see these faces. I hope you look at what you did and destroyed these families, and then you take that into a consciousness of this is a morality situation. I don't know what industry in this United States can kill children and still operate.
The world's biggest social media companies face several landmark trials this year that seek to hold them responsible for harms to kids who use their platforms. A Friday deadline looming on Capitol Hill as a partisan debate rages on over ICE funding and ICE reform. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
I've not had a single conversation with Donald Trump or anyone at a high level at the White House during 2026, which to me shows their lack of seriousness as it relates to this issue.
But Republicans say it's Democrats who are holding things up just for political gain.
The Democrats thought that they were going to make this their issue or something. But this is a home game for us. The American people are tired of the 15 to 20 million people who came here illegally. They don't want to kneecap ICE's ability to do their jobs.
Congress has until the end of the day Friday to avoid another partial government shutdown. The heads of ICE and Border Patrol will be on Capitol Hill tomorrow to testify before the House Homeland Security Committee. President Trump pushing for passage of the SAVE Act that would require an ID to vote. 83% of Americans favor it, even 2 in 3 Democrats in some polling. But Democratic California Senator Adam Schiff isn't one of them.
This is another way to simply try to suppress the vote.
Republican Senator Eric Schmidt says there's only one reason a lawmaker would want people to show up at the polls without ID.
The Democrats aren't really quiet about it anymore. They're sort of saying they want to bring in 15 to 20 million people in here illegally, and they want them to vote for them. So what Republicans are saying is, no, look, we want the return of common sense. We want to make sure people are who they say they are. We want to make sure our elections are secure.
Trump is calling for that act to be passed before the midterm elections in November. Disappointing. That's how House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer describes Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony as she invoked the Fifth Amendment repeatedly during a remote deposition about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. California Democrat Ro Khanna.
Now she's pleading the Fifth about things that don't implicate her, but may implicate many of the other powerful people.
Maxwell is serving 15 to 20 years for her role in the Epstein case. Her attorney says she will testify if granted clemency by President Trump. More talks expected this week between the U.S. and Iran on a deal to end Iran's nuclear and missile programs. President Trump says Tehran knows the consequences if they don't make a deal acceptable to Washington. However, even if the U.S. doesn't hit Iran militarily, Israel has told the Trump administration it might go it alone, worried a U.S. deal might leave Iran's ballistic missile program intact. U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee tells Fox News President Trump knows the score.
Americans need to understand Iran's threat is not about Israel. It's about America. They've been saying death to America for 47 years. He's not going to allow the Ayatollah to continue to play this along.
Retired General Jack Keane says the time for talk is past.
If we get a deal with the Iranians, we know a couple of things. One, they're going to cheat. Two, they're not going to stop destabilizing the Middle East. They will continue to support their proxies. That's who the Iranians are. I don't think it's a good option to extend the life of this regime.
U.S. forces are now mostly in place in the region. Well, there's no arguing the Seattle Seahawks won Super Bowl 60, but who won the battle of the halftime shows? That's the artist who goes by the name Bad Bunny, who did almost an entire show in Spanish. But for the first time, TV viewers were offered an alternative. And a lot of people apparently thought that was better than Bad Bunny. Fox's Sue Guzman.
Millions of NFL fans tuned out the Bad Bunny halftime show at the Super Bowl to view Turning Point USA's halftime show with Kid Rock.
Turning Point USA spokesman Andrew Colvett.
At one point, across all the different social channels, we saw over 10 million concurrent views. So that was adding up all of Rumble and all of our partners just on the social side.
The Turning Point show was created following heavy criticism of the NFL's selection of Bad Bunny as its halftime performer. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, a recap of some of our top local stories and highlights from today's issues in education.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast for tonight. Skies will cloud up where they have not yet done so. There'll be a couple of flurries, a little freezing drizzle late tonight near Lake Erie. Low temps, single digits and teens. Temperatures rising overnight for some. And for tomorrow, it's cloudy with a bit of drizzle or freezing drizzle, some scattered flurries and snow showers, and temperatures peaking in the 30s. And then rather cloudy Wednesday, occasional snow and flurries for some, and high temperatures mid-20s to the middle 30s.
Thank you, Kevin. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Who's it going to be? With Democratic incumbent Kathy Hochul's re-election ticket all set, New York State Republicans take their turn now. The state convention getting underway in Long Island today. One big question, who will be picked as a running mate for gubernatorial candidate Bruce Blakeman? Here's Family Live's Sarah Harnish.
Yeah, among several candidates said to be in the mix is Rensselaer County Executive Steve McLaughlin, who briefly looked to succeed upstate New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik before she opted to stay in office. Others on the Blakeman shortlist reportedly include Erie County Sheriff John Garcia and attorney Bobby Ann Cox. One hat not in the ring is that of Fulton County Sheriff Richard Giordino, who tells Spectrum News he's withdrawn his name from consideration. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Thank you, Sarah. New York's governor doubling down on her anti-ICE stance today.
We want to also ban ICE from going into sensitive locations so you don't have to worry about schools and daycare centers and hospitals and courtrooms and places for education. People should not have that fear.
Hochul was speaking at a law enforcement roundtable today. National Grid has issued a warning to customers about an ongoing scam. The utility company says scammers are reaching out to people and threatening service shutoff without prior notice, then asking for payment when their accounts are current and requesting an account number or other personal information. And fire departments in Throop, Pennsylvania, spending the day tallying earnings from Wingfest. That's an annual tradition where firemen ditch their gear in lieu of aprons and tongs and cook up pizza and wings for Super Bowl Sunday. All the proceeds go to the firehouses across the city. Game day, no joke.
It's our 20th anniversary, so we're probably about, at least right now, about 1,600 pounds of chicken.
Over 200 pizzas, 5 different sauces, 5 different pizzas that we're making.
The firefighters started in the kitchen at 5 in the morning so they'd be ready. Pizza, wings, barbecue chicken, scalloped potatoes on the menu. Members of the area came out in droves. John Uranowski, a Throop Hose Company #1 firefighter, telling WNEP he's grateful for the support.
The citizens of the community, just great. They always support us in our fund drives.
No word yet on how much was raised, but they served hundreds of households. Again, all the proceeds going toward gear and supplies for each of the volunteer fire departments in Throop, PA. Up next, highlights from today's noon feature as Dr. Ralph Kerr with the Teaching and Learning Institute in Houghton, New York, speaks with our Bob Price about some of the top issues in education.
There's a new state comptroller report out that shows bullying and drug use is still a huge problem in New York schools. What were the major findings of this year's School Safety and Educational Climate Report?
I don't understand why the state comptroller is doing surveys in schools on any topic, let alone this topic. This really should fall under the purview of the state education department. It seems like these state officials need to get into their own lanes to begin with. This report has been done for several years, and about 4 years ago, all the definitions got changed. And then they exclude such things as what I would call pretty serious incidents like assault, sexual offense, weapons in school. Schools are not required to report any of those. So you end up with things that are serious, but obviously not nearly as serious as some of those things. But your point is well taken about the drugs. And as you look at the report, you see that drug involvement is a big contributor to all of the incidents that were reported. Drugs have really inundated our schools.
I wonder, and I don't want to go hypothesizing too much on this, if the fact that New York legalized marijuana has contributed at all to that drug problem in the schools.
Well, you can hypothesize all you want, but I think it's a fact. You can't do that kind of stuff and then expect kids not to get involved.
Yep. Moving on, Pennsylvania's governor is advocating for about a $500 million, what he's calling a Ready to Learn block grant. It would fund recess in school. Why does there need to be action, Ralph, at the state level for schools to implement a half hour of recess every day? Can't the districts just figure that out themselves?
Apparently not. And I would say, just to summarize the whole thing, it should be a local decision. It's really a joke when you think about it, because the 30 minutes has to not include getting dressed or getting undressed for recess. And I mentioned this last week to a former elementary teacher, and when I told her, she said, "You have got to be kidding me."
I know some kids, Ralph, it would take them 30 minutes to get dressed.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, they put the boots on the wrong feet. So, yeah, easily 30 minutes of recess could turn into an hour. My conclusion is that these people have not been in school since they were in school, and so they just don't understand the dynamics and the whole instructional process. And by the way, the bill says the intent is to obtain and maintain performance targets in school. Now, I don't see how giving up to an hour of non-instruction is ever going to accomplish that goal.
1 out of every 3 school children in New York are considered chronically absent. I could not believe that statistic. Experts will tell us, Ralph, that these are the kids who are at greatest risk of dropping out of school. Why is this seemingly a bigger problem these days? And more importantly, what can be done about it?
Yeah, well, those are two really good questions. The rate actually in Pennsylvania schools is 23%, and in New York it's actually 35%.
Wow.
It's just a tragedy, because you think about that, 10% is 18 days that the students miss. The core reason, I have to say, I'm going to put it right on the parents at this point, that they don't understand the importance of getting their children to school. On the other side, I think there are several things that schools could do. When I was working, we developed a system that said the teacher would follow up with absences, then the principal, then the superintendent, and ultimately the parents would be asked to come to a board meeting where they could tell the board why they're not sending their children to school. And if it wasn't a sufficient enough answer, the board had agreed that they would actually charge the parents with educational neglect, which is really serious.
Yeah.
And I don't understand really why districts don't do more in that regard, because attendance aid is one of the principal aids that schools receive. And every time a child is not at school, the district loses dollars.
Yeah.
But it's a tough issue for schools to handle, no doubt about that.
Dr. Ralph Kerr and our Bob Price on today's Issues in Education. You can hear the entire feature and, of course, all of our Family Life original news features at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Most of us keep a mental scorecard. Who worked harder? Who gave more? Who deserves what?
Hi, I'm Rob West with the Faith and Finance Minute. Jesus confronts that instinct in the parable of the vineyard workers. Some laborers work all day under a hot sun. Others show up late. Yet when the day ends, everyone receives the same wage. The early workers protest. It feels unfair. But Jesus isn't teaching economics. He's revealing what comparison does to the heart. The landowner reminds them, "Didn't you agree to work for this wage?" Their problem wasn't provision, it was envy. Grace reminds us that God has been generous with all of us. None of us deserves more or less than the person next to us. At the foot of the cross, the scoreboard disappears because the ground is level for everyone. We can help you learn to manage your money according to biblical principles when you download the free FaithFi app. You'll find it on our website at faithfi.com.
Thank you, Rob. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report. Odds are pretty good you had some yesterday.
Pizza. It's
National Pizza Day. Some cheesy facts just ahead.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Well, I can happily report, though it will be cold tonight, it will not be nearly as cold as recent nights, and we've broken the pattern of these absurdly, bitterly cold air masses. Not to say winter is through with us, not by a long shot. In fact, there'll be a little light snow, a little freezing drizzle for some tomorrow. A larger system will impact the region this weekend. But for tonight, skies a little cloud up where they have not yet done so. There'll be a couple of flurries, a little freezing drizzle late tonight near Lake Erie. Low temps, single digits and teens. Temperatures rising overnight for some. And for tomorrow, it's cloudy with a bit of drizzle or freezing drizzle, some scattered flurries and snow showers, and temperatures peaking in the 30s. And then rather cloudy Wednesday, occasional snow and flurries for some, and high temperatures mid-20s to the middle 30s.
Thank you, Kevin. February when 30 sounds great. Well, finally at 5, we wish you a very happy National Pizza Day.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore.
Well, indeed, the birthplace of pizza is Italy, around Naples, though its popularity here didn't really come until post-war Italian immigrants brought it stateside in the late 1940s. By 1958, Pizza Hut was founded in Kansas, and America's love affair with pizza was truly on. 70% of all American restaurants are pizzerias. Super Bowl Sunday, of course, one of the busiest days of the year for them. An estimated 12 to 14 million pies sold for the big game. No surprise in the top 4 toppings: cheese, pepperoni, sausage, and mushrooms. Number 5, bacon. And that's the world we live in for Monday, February 9th, 2026. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.